Hello, fellow book lovers. I need your undivided attention like I never have before. This is A Ballad of Black Tom, written by Victor Lavelle, and this is why I book hunt. I had no knowledge prior to reading this book. After having read it, I did actively search it, and I was able to find some reviews on the book, but it is not a book that is trending in the book space as far as I can tell, but it should be. As you can tell by the title, the story is about a man named Black Tom who, to the untrained eye, is simply a musician, but those who really know him know he deals in more nefarious activities. The story takes place in the 1920s in New York City. And for those of you who don't know, I'm originally from Queens. I've been living in Portland, Oregon for 10 years now. So when I read books set in New York, the nostalgia, needless to say, I love the atmosphere of gritty old New York City, the wool jackets, the top hats, the hard sole shoes. Tom carries around a guitar case and he's just mysterious to people passing by. So I don't know, maybe I was biased, but I was quickly drawn in. Lavelle wrote about the different ghettos located in New York City at that time, which would have been historically correct, and I really appreciated that detail. It helped to really set the scene and immerse the reader. And he had to do that quickly because he only had 150 pages. So the book is split into two parts. And if I can just give my emotional reaction to part one, I loved it. I was hooked from get. When we're told that Tom was a bad musician, that he wasn't actually very talented, I chuckled at that. There's a scene where we meet the old recluse, this old shut in woman, and it really sets the vibe for the rest of the book. And you also are able to place Tom standing in this underground world of dark magic. However, when we meet the character of Robert Suidam, I was hooked, line, and sinker. I was in. Part two takes Black Tom out of the driver's seat and puts Detective Malone in his place. Detective Malone is one of the two detectives who are investigating Robert Suidam, and I won't tell you why because I have to leave some of the book to the imagination. But anyway, in their investigation of Robert Suidam, they end up investigating Black Tom. Again, this book takes place in the 1920s. These two detectives are white, so you can imagine how two white cops investigating a black man could go. With that being said, I do feel that part of being able to enjoy this novella hinges on being able to understand the Black experience. Because the book is so short, author Victor Lavelle doesn't get a lot of time to explain why certain things matter, why certain people and certain relationships matter. And with certain conversations between our characters, not much is said, but a lot is greatly understood if you understand the Black experience, especially in this time in history. And here's where I want to speak on a spoiler, if I could. So I'm going to put a timestamp for those of you who have not read the book and may be interested so you can fast forward. I'm going to give you a second. Okay, so now that it's just us, I found a video where the reviewer stated that because the book wasn't long enough to allow for character development, they weren't able to form a connection to Tom's dad, and therefore they weren't emotionally invested when Tom's father is killed. And to that, I would argue that the reason is because they weren't attuned to the Black experience. That scene where Tom is sitting with his dad and his dad is sharing his experience having dealt with white people and imploring his son to come back to him. I didn't need more than that to understand that relationship. I didn't need more than that to understand that character. And later, when they tell Tom that they've killed his father, that his father is dead, and he shows no outward expression, even to the commentary from the detectives, not much more is needed to understand that scene and that moment if you understand the Black experience, if you understand what it meant to be Black in that time. And it's something that still resonates with readers today. So when that reviewer was not able to grasp that, I don't think that was a fault on the author, nor do I think that that was a fault on the size of the book. However, I will not speculate further. And now we can return to a spoiler free space. When I started The Ballad of Black Tom, I did not know that it was a retelling of a book written by H.P. Lovecraft called The Horror at Red Hook, written in the 1920s, about 48 pages. And no, I did not read it. But I did look up the synopsis and the reviews on it. The book by Lovecraft was told in the perspective of Detective Malone and only Detective Malone. He is still investigating criminal activity that is taking place in the lower class communities in New York. From the reviews, I gathered that the original story was a lot more pulpy and racially charged, and that an all too familiar narrative is sort of regurgitated about these lower class communities and races and how this country viewed these different ethnic groups in that time. I get it. I got it. Now, this may be a hot take, and I'm not sure how strongly I feel about this, so feel free to debate me in the comments. But I almost feel like this is why books like Lovecraft's books should be allowed to exist because of what is inspired from it. However, unfortunately, I also know how harmful these books can be, and that's why I'm not sure how strongly I believe in their existence. What I will say is that in the moment of reading The Ballad of Black Tom, what was in front of me was enough for me to state that, yes, I enjoy this book. However, after reading it and looking up what other people thought of it and seeing what it was in response to, that pushed the rating of this book way up for me. Fun fact about me, I actually have an aversion to eye stuff. So if that is a trigger for you, then consider yourself warned. Obviously, I did not like a particular scene that comes up in the book, but after having learned of the real Detective Malone, I am grateful for that scene. Take that however you want. I listened to this book in tandem with the audio, not immerse read because I can't really do that. But when I wasn't reading the physical book, I was listening to the audiobook. It is narrated by Kevin R. Free, and this narrator was phenomenal. I loved how he changed his voice for every character. It could be me, but I feel like I don't see a lot of audio narrators voice acting anymore, and that really adds to the enjoyment. So if you're watching this and you're an audio narrator, consider that. This was my first experience with Victor Lavelle's books. It looks like he's known for writing Lone Woman. I'm going to read my notes for this one. It is a historical horror about a woman with secrets that leaves her hometown for Montana, and it has a 3.75 on Goodreads. Another book that he is known for is The Changeling, and that one has 4 stars on Goodreads, and it's another cosmic horror like The Ballad of Black Tom. I want to read this one, but the plot involves the killing of a child, and I don't know how well I'd be able to stomach that. But I might try. Last thing I want to add about the Ballad of Black Tom, and I'll preface this by saying that I don't really like racially charged books. And in fact, I've gotten more and more frustrated with the publishing industry and how I know that they are in large part to blame for why non-white authors feel a sense of pressure to add racial oppression into their stories in order for their stories to sell. I know that this topic is also a topic that authors do want to write about, so I don't completely blame the industry. I myself am trying to write a book, and racial oppression is a subtopic within the story, so I get it. But as a Black reader, I don't need another story telling me about racism because at this point, I know. So the fact that the Ballad of Black Tom tramples on those same stomping grounds, but not in a way that makes me want to roll my eyes to the back of my head, bravo, Lavelle. Bravo. I understand that this book was made into a novella because The Horror at Red Hook was also a short novel, but we need more Black Tom. We don't need any more Malone. We can leave him in the rearview mirror, but Black Tom and the Sleeping King, I would do some dangerous things to get my hands on that arc. But that's it. If you're behind on your reading goals for the first quarter of the year and you are looking for something quick to help you catch up, this one is definitely for you. Or if you are looking for a good cosmic thriller, look no further. The Ballad of Black Tom is it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. You already know. Like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Happy reading.